All right, today we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about carrying a firearm in the state of Utah. You see, the laws here really create two very different paths for gun owners. So let's just dive right in and figure out what that means for you. So here's the big question. Since 2021, Utah has been a permitless carry state, sometimes called constitutional carry, for anyone over 21. And that leads to a really obvious question. If you don't legally need a permit to carry, why on earth do so many people still go through the trouble of getting one? Well, that's exactly what we're going to answer today. You can think of it like this. Utah law gives you two distinct options, two paths you can take for carrying a firearm. And believe me, the path you choose has some pretty significant legal consequences, so understanding the difference between them is absolutely crucial. Okay, so on one side of the coin, you've got permitless carry. If you're 21 or older and you're not legally prohibited from owning a gun, you can carry a concealed handgun on a public street. Simple enough, right? But on the other side, you've got the formal Concealed Firearm Permit, or what they call the CFP. Now, this is available for adults 21 and over, but it also opens the door for a provisional permit for those who are 18 to 20. And as you're about to see, that CFP unlocks some major legal advantages. So really, why bother with the paperwork, the class, and the fee for a permit? I mean, is it worth the hassle? Well, the thing is, while permitless carry establishes that basic right, the CFP offers a whole set of legal privileges that, honestly, many gun owners consider absolutely essential. The first huge advantage, and for a lot of people this is the big one, is reciprocity. A Utah CFP is recognized in a whopping 36 other states. This is a massive, massive benefit if you ever travel with a firearm, because your right to carry under Utah's permitless law, that stops dead at the state line. And it's not just about travel. There are some other really key benefits. For instance, with a standard permit, you're allowed to carry in K-12 public schools, which is a complete no-go zone otherwise. If you're a Utah resident, it also means you get to waive that background check fee every time you buy a firearm. And maybe most importantly, the permit process ensures you've had state-approved training on self-defense law. You get a solid legal foundation that lasts for the full 5 years your permit is valid. Okay, so let's say you're convinced the permit is the right choice for you. What does the application process actually involve? Well, it's pretty straightforward, but you really have to pay attention to the details. The whole thing breaks down into 4 main steps. First, you've got to take a firearm familiarity course with an instructor who's been certified by Utah's Bureau of Criminal Identification, or the BCI. After that, you just gather your documents, submit your application, and then the BCI does a full background check before they issue your permit. Now get this. Every single week, the Utah BCI has to send back between 200 and 400 applications. You want to know why? It's almost always because of small, totally avoidable mistakes. And these are the culprits right here. Things like putting down the wrong payment amount, submitting a photo that isn't passport quality, or having fingerprints that are smudged and unreadable. Any one of these little things will get your application bounced right back to you. So paying super close attention to the details is really the key here. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about the rules that apply to everyone. And I mean everyone, whether you have a permit or not. These are the fundamental laws for carrying a gun in Utah that you just have to know. The most critical rules, without a doubt, are about knowing where you absolutely cannot carry a firearm. The law calls these locations secure areas, and these restrictions are enforced very, very strictly. So these spots are completely off limits. We're talking about the secure areas of airports, past TSA, plus courthouses, jails, and federal buildings. But here's the other big one to remember. Any private property owner can prohibit firearms. If a business, a home, or even a church has a sign posted saying no guns, that sign has the full force of law. Okay, so beyond where you can carry, the law gets extremely specific about when you are legally justified in using force. And let me tell you, understanding the laws of self-defense is probably the single most important responsibility for any gun owner. A central concept in Utah's self-defense law is this term, forcible felony. Now, this doesn't just mean any old felony. It's very specific. It refers to violent crimes against another person, things like robbery or kidnapping. And this definition, it's the absolute key to understanding when deadly force is legally on the table. The Utah Code itself is crystal clear about this. Using deadly force is a last resort. It's only legally justified when you reasonably believe it's necessary to stop an imminent threat of death, serious bodily injury, or one of those forcible felonies we just talked about. So let's bring this all together. After going through all of that, what are the real key takeaways about carrying a firearm responsibly here in Utah? You know, this final comparison really makes the choice clear. Look, both paths let you carry on a public street or in your car, but that permit, it unlocks some really critical privileges. Carrying in schools, being able to travel to dozens of other states, and saving a little money on background check fees. You can think of permitless carry as the legal baseline, but the CFP gives you much broader legal authority. And, just as important, it confirms you've had formal training on the law. And that really brings us to the final point. At the end of the day, understanding the law is just the first step. The statutes, the code, they define what is legal, but they don't define what it truly means to be a responsible gun owner. That's a commitment and a judgment call that each person has to make for themselves.